Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second big movie review podcast. I'm Anson Chan,
I'm Paul Morgan.
and today we are reviewing Gone Girl and The Big Lebowski.
Yeah. So which should we start with first?
Let's start with Gone Girl.
All right, let's talk Gone Girl. So Gone Girl is a 2014 film by David Fincher, starring Ben Affleck, Rosamund Pike, Neil Patrick Harris, and in a surprise appearance, Tyler Perry, based on the novel by Gillian Flynn, in which famous local celebrity, amazing Amy Dunn, goes missing, and her husband is heavily implicated and I would even say shamed at times by the press for not acting the way they expect the husband of a disappeared woman to act, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say too much more about the plot for fear of giving too much away, but I guess let's say if you haven't seen Gone Girl, this is going to have some spoilers in it.
Absolutely. I think it's unavoidable because the majority of the movie, or rather the large plot twist or twists, spoilers, are revealed about a little before halfway through, I think.
Yeah.
So the majority of what we have to talk about is going to deal with the big twist. So spoiler alert. Actually, before we get into spoilers, is there anything we'd like to talk about? Paul, is there anything that you really liked about this movie that don't have any spoilers?
Yeah.
Or should we just go straight into it?
No, I mean, I'm down to go straight into it, or we can go into what we liked first. Let's just go into what worked for us, what didn't work for us, and then we can move into more of a general discussion.
Okay, sounds good.
So for me, one of the big draws of this movie is the cinematic style. I am a huge David Fincher fan, and one of the things I love about Fincher is his camera movement. He has this gorgeous camera movement that seems to be adaptable to any style of movie he's directing. And in this movie, I got from the camera a sense of foreboding at times, a sense of being all-knowing at times, a sense of being very specifically from the point of view of different characters at times. I thought the camera work in this, as it usually is in David Fincher movies, was incredible. Without a lot of specifics to point to as examples, unfortunately. I guess just a general look I thought was really cool. And then also, another thing that really worked for me, Ben Affleck's acting. I feel like I heard stories about how David Fincher cast Ben Affleck because of the fact that he knows Ben Affleck has had a few like public controversies. And not even like really life-threatening ones, but ones where it's like, oh, he made this movie that costs a lot and it maybe didn't turn out as well as some people wanted. So I remember hearing in an interview he cast him for that reason. And I thought Ben Affleck did a really great job of playing the I have no clue why everyone is against me and I'm starting to get kind of exacerbated by it type things. So those two are the two big standouts in terms of what worked for me. What worked for you?
I was going to say Ben Affleck. He sold his character perfectly.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else really worked for me? The story was very compelling.
Yeah.
And at times very painful to watch, because as it was getting set up and the plot gets rolling, again, no spoilers for now, but that feeling that there's something really off, both in the sound, the score, the way things were shot, the different scenes, and just as like certain clues or pieces were revealed about, their relationship, Ben Affleck with Rosamund Pike, or Amy Dunn in this case. Mm-hmm. And it got hard to watch, man. Like, it got... I'm struggling for words here. I had to pause it at times because it was just... I was like, oh no! And I was cringing a little too hard, or...
Yeah.
I felt like... This is kind of like a movie where normally I don't think I would have seen.
Okay.
Because it's not the kind of movie that I normally want to see, nor am I in the mood to see.
Yeah, it's a very dark movie, man.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to see it as, like, as, like, from a critical perspective. But as a normal viewer, like, me, this is not normally my type of movie. So I had to pause it a lot to kind of get through it. Because I had to go, like, there were a lot of times at the end when I'd be like, oh, what'd I say? I'd be like, damn! Or like, oh, hell no! That's like, I kept going, hell no! Oh, hell no! Like when shit was happening.
Yeah.
Like, cause, oh my gosh. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Audition. It's a Japanese movie that came out, I think around in the 2000s.
Yeah.
There's a lot, okay, here, spoiler if you've seen Audition, but I'm sure a lot of people have heard about Gone Girl. It's a very famous movie / book. But Audition has a lot of similarities to this movie, both in terms of theme, plot, and characters, really. And my God, Audition gets a little bit hard to watch too. With the same kind of like, setup is very slow. It seems everything's like, normal life stuff until the big reveal where things just like take 180 into just like the darkest place you could have possibly made that movie.
Yeah.
Audition goes from a romantic comedy into just like horror slasher thriller, like about halfway through, right? But everything seems normal until then. In this movie, it's already revealed pretty early on that something is amiss.
Yeah.
But where it takes it to where, I can't spoil it right now, but that big 180 in like the change of tone is very consistent with Audition. And the way they were able to get that across is very interesting from a storytelling perspective, and I really enjoyed that. But my God, because you're so involved with the movie at that point, because you're very into it, it becomes painful.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, you don't see the story, you don't see the whole picture.
Yep.
You have everyone's an unreliable narrator. No one is really telling the truth until they're kind of confronted with the truth.
Yep.
And even then, everyone has their own motivation and angles.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty rough. The first part where Ben is meeting the girl, I really enjoyed. The setup for the love story, but knowing, because I had this ending kind of spoiled for me already. Knowing what was going to happen made it that much harder.
Yeah.
And that way made it that much better too.
Yep.
But this movie, like A Serious Man the last time, just can really bring you down. And that way it does a very good job.
Oh,
so
definitely.
I like those two things.
It's definitely it definitely reveals something kind of I don't know that I can even speak to what it was, but it definitely seemed to reveal something very deep about human beings, deep and dark.
Yeah. And
I really, really respected its ability to keep that within the confines of like what felt to be a very real world.
Yeah, definitely. Their use of the I think they had like two famous reporters in this, didn't they? They had the Fox News anchor and someone else.
I'm not sure who they used for those, but that wouldn't surprise me if I'm being honest.
Because I'm pretty sure those are the two. I think they're actually reporters, like the Fox person and the someone else. Anyway, it seems so believable.
Yeah.
Yeah, like beyond that.
Yeah, I'm looking on the IMDb page. I'm not seeing any.
Me neither. I'm trying to find
any names that say self or anything like that. But
yeah.
No, the news media was very effective as well. I didn't maybe mention that, but they really did that really well, and
I agree.
Really, really blew me away to think kind of afterwards, and in the times I've watched it since, how much of an influence the news media has on our kind of way of thinking as a country.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're experiencing that now. Everyone's watching the news media that appeals to them, and that's how we get our news.
In order to date our podcast, do we want to give them a little bit of reference as to what has just happened in the news recently?
Oh well, there's been a lot of controversy over who's printing real news, who's printing fake news in the wake of Donald Trump's election to the presidency. So yeah.
So you can see the far right and the far left in.
Yeah. You see all these news sources, and it's like, this is obviously aimed at a certain crowd, and they're obviously getting readers because they have, massive amounts of advertisements on the side of each article and stuff. It's very compelling to see how that's kind of panning out. Mm-hmm. But so what didn't work for you in Gone Girl? Was there anything that you kind of that took you out of the movie?
Took me out. That is an excellent question. I think the same problem that I had with The Serious Man, where it became hard to watch at times, which is both its strength and its downfall for me.
Sure.
Was that this movie was also hard to watch at times.
Yeah.
This is, like I said, again, this is not a movie I would normally want to watch because I kind of knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And we've seen The Lobster, and it kind of has like a commentary about relationships and like society at large and just like what is happiness, blah, 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 that sort of thing. And this is really a pessimistic kind of view or take on that whole thing, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's David Fincher's kind of signature. Like he said in some interview that Tony Zhao posted on his channel, he said, I just think people are sickos, and I kind of just want to make movies about that.
Mm.
And I think that's kind of telling, considering how considering how messed up some of the characters were in this movie and in other David Fincher movies, but two, like, there's a thing that they did in this movie that I think shows that very well, which is that David Fincher somehow found out that when someone is going to get killed in a prison yard, they'll sometimes try to get them like playing basketball or lifting weights before they kill them. So their like blood is pumping harder and they'll lose more of it faster if they get like a main pipe kind of cut.
Mm-hmm.
And they use that to plug into the sex scene, which is like Rosamund Pike's character. Yeah, this is where spoilers come in, where Rosamund Pike's character knows that Neil Patrick Harris is going to have his heart rate elevated, so she just goes for the main drag on his neck, and just that scene is so dark and also so haunting. But
that's
like,
fucking brutal.
You know, that's kind of the vibe David Fincher is going for, is this dark, brutal. You know, I have a feeling if the guys from Metalocalypse were real, they would be big fans of David Fincher's.
Brutal.
Yeah, exactly.
Since we can get into spoiler territory a little bit more, that scene, again, I'm going to bring this back to Audition, because I kept thinking about that throughout watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It freaks you out because, you know, this is a very possible thing that can happen.
Yeah.
And it's funny when it's put into the context. It's funny, it's ironic, I don't know what you want to call it, but when you put it into the context of a relationship, because in both cases, the main characters are trying. Well, the main character in Audition is trying to make it work with this girl who obviously has something a little bit off about her.
Yeah.
Right? And as the movie kind of progresses, it flashes back to moments where you see them actually together in restaurants or hanging out, where there's very obvious hints that, like, she says something that makes you go, what? You know? But it's great how the way they cut it, because you don't see that. But when things are finally happening to the guy, where like he's getting like his limbs decapitated and like his eyes getting needles put into it and stuff.
Yeah.
Then it rolls back to all the stuff that like really should have made sense in the moment. But because you're trying to make a relationship work, or you're trying to like, you know, fight through the flaws or try to make something happen, sex or the relationship, whatever, you overlook things.
Definitely.
But you know, that is his downfall, his undoing. In this case, for Neil Patrick Harris's character, who really, like, was everyone got a raw deal, but he actually got killed over it, and he was just the nicest dude. You know, you need a useful idiot. In Margot what's her name?
The main lady?
Robbie. Yeah, what's her name?
Rosamund
Pike. So when Rosamund Pike, is saying in the beginning, like, I need that useful idiot, that stupid pregnant neighbor, you know. In a lot of things, in a lot of grand designs, you need a useful idiot, a fall guy, what have you, or just someone who's gonna, you know, who'll support you no matter what, someone easy to lie to. Neil Patrick Harris was the ultimate useful idiot, but then he, you know, cost him his life.
Yeah. He was also kind of a creep, though.
He was a creep that gave her everything she wanted, minus the Balance of Power Act. You know,
yeah, that
because
was a
he
weird
actually had
dynamic.
everything on her. It was interesting because what this was showing or elucidating to was the power dynamic in the relationship. When Rosamund Pike was in charge of Ben Affleck in, like, you know, the finances, like, she had him by the balls.
Yeah.
Like, he says this himself, like, she was my financier, or I think she wrote this fake in the diary. The financier, the only bank of credit he needed, funded the house, like, basically his whole life, you know. And on top of that, the prenup and all the life insurance and stuff. You know what I mean? She is the one thing. And Neil Patrick Harris's relationship with her by the end, when she's destitute and looking just for anything, really just like, why not? He has all the money. He has all the freedom to go out of the house and do whatever he wants, live his life. And on top of the fact, he has fucking video cameras all over the fucking house.
Yeah.
You know? Which is even more of like, you don't even have your privacy. You don't even have your own time because I even own that. And so she hates that and kills him for it. Or she tries to frame Ben Affleck to get him killed because she's just tired of their relationship. It's fucking so horrible.
It's pretty, it's one of those things where it's like, I almost... One of the things I'll give this movie credit for is that, like, everyone is a little bit wrong. And then with Amy, when you add that being wrong to her kind of acquired sociopathy, it really, like, it just makes for the worst pot of stew you can imagine. Like, oh, man. You're so right. It's
hard to watch because...
Yeah, it is very tough to watch.
You can see this play out not only in the relationship aspect, because, you know, these kind of grand schemes exist in the real life. Maybe not to this extent.
Sure.
But holy shit. I'm sure something like this has happened. Not 100%, you know, stroke for stroke. But
yeah, but I mean, different portions of this have probably happened, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah.
And oh, go ahead.
It was interesting, like, comparing this again to the audition where, like, things start to make sense as the story progresses because, like, where they cut to them in a restaurant just sitting, eating, but it looks like they were just having a nice time. All the while, the music score is kind of off, and it's letting you know that something's not right. Yeah. And this movie had very much the same tone, the weird music throughout playing.
Yeah. And this movie was scored by Trent Reznor, who has done, I believe, David Fincher's 2 movies preceding this, which were The Social Network and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
I still haven't seen those 2.
Yeah, and those, let me tell you, those 2 movies are wonderful, but their scores are very, very cool.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
But going back to the audition scenes again, when it's revealed, like, as I already mentioned, like, you know, that during that dinner they had a really weird conversation about she's kind of broken and really fucked up, and you should have, you know, that should have been an alarm bell right there.
Yep.
In this case, when you see Ben Affleck taking pictures with random people at the wake or the candlelight vigil or whatever they were, you know, and quote-unquote not acting like grieving husband should be.
Yep.
The reveal is like, we were going to get a divorce, I was cheating on her, but I also had my reasons. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that was also very nice, the way they spoon-fed you kind of the information. Because it wasn't like you could have guessed that, like, they were going to get a divorce. Nothing really told you that to begin with. Or nothing told you that he was having an affair either. You know? When they see the panties in his office, she's like, she could have left those for me too. Like, that is believable too. Because they're doing some weird hide-and-fucking-seek thing. And she's trying to look like some loyal wife, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of room for where you think that could go. And you're just trying to keep it... You know there's like a red flag.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like... Not even a red flag, like a yellow flag.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a little bit off. Something's off. And then you see the movie and you like take a sec, you absorb it, and then you watch it again and you're like, oh, we've been supposed to know that something is off the whole time. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I personally, like my first time watching it, I did not catch that everything was off the entire time. I went in completely blind, not knowing what the deal was. I didn't know a lot of stuff was off.
I've only seen this once, so you've seen this twice now.
I've seen it a few times, yeah.
Okay, what did I miss not seeing it for the second or third time? What did you see?
I don't have a lot of specifics to point to. I didn't write any notes about this, but
okay.
Just like look at their conversations and look what she's paying attention to after the honeymoon period of their relationship is over.
But that's all fucked up because it was coming from her diary, and that was all written as a hoax, you know?
But also, I think, I mean, and this might be projecting. I mean, I watched this on Wednesday, but I feel like it's relatively fresh in my mind. Mm-hmm. I feel like, in a way, you're hearing her diary to kind of show what she's trying to put forth as the narrator of the first half. But you're seeing on screen someone who is very much more aware and in control than they let on.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
That's kind of what I'm alluding to, I guess, because I didn't really get that the first time. The first time I was like, oh, the diary is just narrating what we're seeing on screen. But then the second time and third time, you watch it and you're like, no, I think the diary is almost in a way undercutting this sort of calculating, very like controlled person is doing in the pictures,
Yeah.
And that's one thing is, not to keep jumping back to what did work for me, but I usually really don't like narrators, but David Fincher has made two of the most effective narrator-based movies of all time in my mind, which is this and Fight Club.
That's what I thought you were going to say. Yeah, Fight Club had a great narrator.
Yeah, like these are two really good, unreliable narrators that you somehow still are interested in after they prove themselves unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of an interesting facet of these.
He also takes, I think, wasn't The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo also a book?
Yeah.
So he's just very good at adapting the books to the screen.
Yeah, I agree. He's done some of the adaptations I've seen most widely praised.
I'd agree. Now that we can kind of get into spoiler territory, was there anything else that we'd like to talk about with Gone Girl? I'm sure there's a lot that we're not discussing here.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to touch on one thing that I think deserves to be mentioned every time this movie comes up, which is that Tyler Perry did an amazing job. And this is maybe part of a larger conversation, but I have only ever seen Tyler Perry on commercials while watching TBS shows that are for his Medea show or for one of his Medea movies. Mm-hmm. And I know he's a writer and a very prolific director and producer, but because those movies aren't really marketed towards me, I don't go see them. And I always kind of thought like, oh yeah, he's kind of an interesting character, but I don't know if I like relate to him. I guess he's got great ambition, and then I saw this movie and I was like, oh, he's actually like a good actor. Like I've never seen anything he's done. I've just seen these like wild and crazy, Medea things that are just like so over the top. You're like, oh, that must be all this guy does. But like seeing him play like the person with their head screwed on the tightest was really cool, I thought. I don't know. That was just really awesome.
I also wanted to mention that I thought he was a good actor too, but I didn't know that he was the Medea guy.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, he like writes, directs, and acts in all of those. And I believe he's also usually producing them.
Yeah, no kidding. I thought he was just another actor who they got who was good. Yeah, I didn't know that he was the Medea dude, and that's all he's ever done.
Well, no, that's the thing is that like I looked him up, and that's not all he's done like a lot of stuff, but because of the fact that that's all that gets advertised to like my demographic or like the shows I watch, that's all I knew him from. So I was I thought, oh, this guy just does like wacky over the top performance.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Interesting.
There was that. I just really love the scene where she kills Neil Patrick Harris. David Fincher does the best violence as well. I'm just sucking David Fincher's dick right now. I'm not shy about it. That's okay. I love his work. What else bears mentioning?
How about the scene where Amy Dunn gets her money stolen while she's like hanging out in the the motel she's staying at?
Oh shit.
Because that also has like an element of the power dynamics at play. Those that you trust, those with their own what's the word? Motivation.
Yep.
You think you're fooling them, but you're really not. Though her so-called friends like, you're not who you say you are. These are fake glasses. Your hair is obviously dyed. Like, you're not going to the cops if we're going to steal your money.
Yep.
It's like, you should be more careful because some people aren't as nice as we are. And then they just take the money and run away. You know what I mean? Because they're talking to someone who literally just straight up kills people in cold blood. And will ruin people's fucking whole lives, So there's a little bit of an ironic twist there
It is kind of funny how that worked out.
Yeah.
Oh man,
the setup of her losing her money was a bit funny. Cause that could have potentially been done with more subtlety. I don't know how it went in the book, where she actually drops her money bag golfing, and if they saw that was a money bag, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for the film's sake, it gets the point across. They go, "Oh, that's a big wallet. I thought you said you were broke." You know what I mean? It's like, A, how did you even see what that was? I couldn't even barely tell what that was at the time.
Sure.
C, or B, if they were able to Sherlock Holmes their way into figuring out she's not who she says she is kind of moment, you know, and then rob her, that would have made more sense. But, yeah. Or not, it wouldn't have made more sense. It would have felt better, I guess, from a storytelling perspective, but that would have been harder to get across.
Sure.
There would have been a lot more hurdles to overcome, and I think it would have been harder to digest. But that scene felt a little clunky to me.
Yeah, I wonder how they could have done that differently.
Yeah. I still liked it, though, because like I said, like, just for the sake of the moral of the story there is, and let's apply this to everything else that's going on, was very effective, and it needed to be said. Or it should have been said, and I'm glad they said it. But I also think, you know, like, again, I think that could have been done with a little bit more...
More tact, maybe?
Yes, thank you.
Kind of more slipped in than said overtly.
Oh, there's your money bag. We're going to rob you now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, good point. And it's always, like, tough to... One thing I think is tough in that situation is, like, how do you make us feel sorry for someone we've kind of soured to?
I felt very good about that when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it would have been nice if she died. Because, no,
that's
really.
The beauty of the ending, though. The ending is that she's got fucking Ben Affleck in a sleeper hold and he can't get out of it now.
Nah, she's got a gun to his fucking head, man. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, right? It's like...
There's nothing that he can do now.
That's why it's so beautiful that she didn't die.
Unless she gets fucking hit by a fucking car.
You know? Yeah, he's gonna have to or something.
No, he's gonna have to get a random person to hit her, kill her, and then, yeah, that's the only way. And like, I'll pay for everything afterwards, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's the only thing you could possibly do.
Gone Girl Part 2.
Just run her over.
Nick goes wacky.
That's what they set up, though. Right. I was reading a
book about just like their horrible marriage following her returning home. Just like filled with like deadly stares across the dinner table and like cold smiles across the room.
That's so even fucked up because like you don't even know if someone's poisoning you because someone's already tried to kill you and now you gotta live with them under your roof. Like the food that they could be cooking might just be fucking poison. You know?
I know, it's like, what do you do if you're brutal. Ben Affleck at the end of that?
You get someone to run her over with the fucking car.
Yeah.
Jesus. Like, that is so, like...
or
you drive, and then you just run into a fucking tree, and aim for the fucking passenger side, and speed the fuck up. That's what I would do. Holy shit. You gotta kill that fucker, but make it look like a goddamn accident.
Take the involuntary manslaughter and do your 2 years and be over
Holy shit. Veer off into the oncoming traffic and oops, you know,
I can't even imagine like what
Bingo
that next
bongo.
Couple days would have been like. He's just like taking every plate she gives him and like throwing it in the trash away. And like, this is delicious, honey, thank you. And she like questioning him in this sinister manner. Did you like the Brussels sprouts?
It's like, they were
he
very
just immediately pukes up a bunch of Brussels sprouts.
Yeah. Or he goes, yeah, it was really good. She goes, I didn't make Brussels sprouts. Something like that, right? Just you're fucked, man. You're so fucked.
You should have opened the platter before you threw it away, Nick.
Oh. But I was reading a thing about the difference between the book and the movie, just a couple scenes.
Yeah.
Apparently, throughout the book, they make more of an emphasis for Nick and his relationship with his dad and how his dad kind of wasn't there. And so the ending makes more sense because since she's pregnant and she's like, I don't need to tell my kid that you're an asshole dad. You know what I mean? Because he's just going to think it if you divorce me. Right? And so then he feels like I can't let this kid, even though it's not mine, be stuck with this psycho. There's a bit of that. And there was also in the beginning when he's telling like, you just want to crack your head open and think and see, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? As she looks up at him and just kind of smiles and goes back down. That's apparently, or it might have been, from his manuscript that he was writing after he was writing about all the shit things that actually happened. Like, she set up this, blah, 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 all the horrible secrets that had happened throughout the movie. And then when she says, I'm pregnant, he deletes the manuscript. So, those two things are missing, but I don't think they're necessary.
I would have liked to have seen that, him deleting the manuscript thing. That would have made the ending so much more devastating for me. But then they would have had to set that up and stuff, so that would have
felt a little bit more ham-fisted, because it's kind of out of left field.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really set up the kid part either, or the dad relationship too. Because they did in the beginning, when the dad gets out of the, what's it called, the retirement home, and runs off, and he has to drive him back.
Yeah.
They don't really... That happens, but there's no significance to the movie. Now, in the book's context, knowing what I told you, it makes a lot more sense. It's like, oh, he has a really fucked up relationship with his dad because he has dad issues.
Yeah, I don't know that one scene specifically painted that well enough.
Right. It's just supposed to be kind of like a mention to what happened in the books, I guess.
Gotcha. Well, and that's one of those things is that
you have to selectively choose. You
can't
tell
that's the
story.
Tough part. But I think at least the fact that they put that in there at least shows like, hey, we're trying to put as much stuff as possible. But
that was good.
No, definitely. All right. Well, I think we're about good talking about this one. We maybe struggled for stuff to talk about for a second there, but I think I think
in terms of themes we could have gone a little bit more, but that's fine too.
Yeah, certainly. But I think we relatively thoroughly covered what worked and didn't work for us and stuff. So if you had a friend and they were looking for a movie to watch on their hot date, would you recommend this movie to them?
On their hot date?
No, I'm just kidding. Would you recommend this movie?
I was like, Paul, I tell him to go see Medea's Family Reunion.
I know, right?
Yeah, see Tyler Perry at his best,
He really should have been on like Mad TV or SNL or something.
I say, if you're a big Ben Affleck fan, this is actually a really good movie to see Ben Affleck at his best. I don't know a lot of people who are, but he actually really did a fantastic job in this movie. I say, as a movie put together, the story that was told and the way it was shot, yes. But this is a brutal movie. It's unrelenting and just kind of like how ugly it gets and kind of like makes you feel kind of like how you see the world afterwards kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or I would say you can miss it if you don't want to be, if you don't want to feel like shit. So.
Yeah.
Yes to all the critical reasons, no for a movie that you want to see. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
If you want to fucking feel miserable, oh my fucking god, this is the best movie ever.
Sure.
How about you, Paul? Would you take your hot date to see Gone Girl?
I was gonna say the thing about this one with regard to recommendation is that I would probably not recommend it to someone, but I would definitely like tell them over and over how much I liked it, so as to be like, I don't want to say that you would like this because I don't know what type of shit you like, but I love this movie and I really, I think my opinion is valuable. Because like, it's one of those ones where it's like, I would love to sit down with someone and over explain to them why they should watch this movie. But I also realize this movie is so totally not for everyone that I would feel kind of weird doing that.
Can you give me like the short rundown of how you would do that over explanation of why this is such a great movie and why they should see it even though you don't want them to see it?
I would probably talk about how it's a movie about how manipulative the media and the mob mentality that is the quote-unquote community can be in terms of shaping our psyche, shaping the ways we think about things, and it does so using an accusation of murder and a presumption of guilt by the public. And that it's compellingly shot, it's directed by someone who is time-tested to make the best out of books, and it stars people who really know what the heck they're doing in the positions they're in.
Ooh, well done. That's such a good recommendation.
Yeah, that would be my kind of like elevator pitch for it. But yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend it to someone as much as I would be like, I really freaking love this movie, but it might not be for you. It's pretty dark. That would be what I would say.
Nice. Okay.
So, should we talk a little bit about The Big Lebowski?
Yeah, let's talk about The Big Lebowski, the 1998 classic by the Coen brothers. For those of you who haven't seen or heard of it, The Big Lebowski is about the main character called the Dude and his friends in the bowling league. The Big Lebowski, or the Dude, is mistaken for some rich millionaire.
Whoa! Let's be clear. The millionaire is the Big Lebowski.
He's just the Dude.
According to the credits, I just want to clarify that before we move
on. Okay, so the Dude is mistaken for the Big Lebowski because they both share the same last names. Eventually, a lot of things happen to the Big Lebowski, where a kidnapping of his mistress or wife ensues. $1 million gets stolen along the way. Right? Am I getting there?
$1 million gets embezzled along the way, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone kind of wants this money back for their own reasons. And the Dude, in the meantime, is just being strung along as the useful idiot, with his friend John Goodman just being the super duper antagonist. Like, the greatest antagonist in a movie there ever was. Like, not like in a bad way. Just like in that that's your asshole friend who's going to get you into trouble.
Well, in the sense that the antagonist actively prevents the protagonist from accomplishing their goal, even if by pure accident.
That never could have been, it never could have been done even had it gone the right way anyway. Which is funny. But, so that's kind of the movie. The Big Lebowski. Was I missing anything in that synopsis?
I mean, no, there's like subplots wherein like the Dude and his bowling buddies get, they try and kind of navigate the world of amateur league bowling, which is kind of fun. I mean, that to me is one of the plot points I love the most. There's also a group of nihilists, or purported nihilists, who are after the money, who are associated with Bunny Lebowski.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the plot seems very simple, but once it actually gets rolling, so many people's weird interests get in the way that it becomes very complex. So what are your kind of thoughts on this movie? I kind of want to start with general thoughts because I know, not to undermine you or anything, but I know the last time we talked, you said you were not a huge fan of this movie.
Right. So I like movies. People know I like movies.
Sure.
Sometimes I get asked, have you seen The Big Lebowski? And I'll say no. And they go, dude, how come you've never seen The Big Lebowski? It's like the best movie ever. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta watch it. It's on my list. You know what I mean?
Sure.
26 years old now. I watched The Big Lebowski. And I was a little bit let down because I had way higher expectations than what I was kind of built up to.
Sure.
To be fair, nothing was spoiled for me.
Yeah.
But,
because how can you spoil this movie? Like,
it's kind of
everything
weird.
that happens is ridiculous, so you can't spoil it by like saying one ridiculous thing that happens.
Yeah. It's so hard to connect one scene or one line from The Big Lebowski to anything else.
Yeah.
Which was good. I think you've seen a lot of reference to it in popular culture, but
definitely.
Even then, it doesn't really give it away.
No, yeah, that's so funny how that works, you know?
Yeah.
And that's one of those things is that I know this is very cynical of me, but I do have this secret question in my mind that's like, do people realize like how brilliant of a movie this is, or do they just like the fact that like a stoner guy is like the lead character and he says some funny shit sometimes? You know?
He's just kind of like rambling on from one place to the other.
Yeah, and that's like one of those things where it's like you hear like a comedic genius like Bill Burr or Anthony Jeselnik tell a joke, and you hear people laugh, and you're like, some of these people are laughing because they think this is a racist joke, and other people get it. You know, it's like, I don't want to give any fans of anything that's very like widely popular the benefit of the doubt in that sense. I know that sounds very cynical, but
it's like a very nice watch that's not flashy, right?
Yeah.
You might not, on its face, you see it's a nice watch, but when you know the gears and the springs and all the work that went in to make that watch, that beautiful watch, you say, I wonder if these guys actually know this is $1 million watch that I'm walking around with. Kind of
right.
Thing. This is a $10,000 watch, right? So that's what you mean. There's a lot of pieces, corks and screws, and like cinematic genius, if you will, that went into this that people don't realize.
Yeah. And then there's also, though, on the other end of the spectrum, there's the fucking guy at the party that goes, dude, you have to see the Big Lebowski. Like, you know.
Yeah, right.
There's that guy who ruined it for you.
Kind of. I mean, it's just over time.
Yeah.
Just everyone saying you should see it over time.
Sure.
And so I thought this was going to be like, it felt to me like Napoleon Dynamite. Because I think I was watching it for the comedy strokes. And what happened to me as a kid, when I was going to see Napoleon Dynamite, all the jokes, all the sayings, all the funny things, whatever, got ruined for me by the time I actually saw it. Because it was played to death the 2 weeks I hadn't seen it, right?
Yeah.
So when I saw it, I was like, I knew all of this, and that was kind of it. That was my first watch, where, like, it wasn't as funny as it should have been. No, there were a lot of funny moments for me that I really enjoyed. Like, when they take Donnie on the ride-along to get their money back from the kid who they think stole the money.
Yeah.
And then, like, they're talking about In-N-Out Burger. And like, shut the fuck up, Donnie! Like, we're gonna go to In-N-Out Burger, shut the fuck up, you know? And like, eventually, at the end of that scene, you know, he gets his car bashed in by the guy, because, you know, this is what happens when you fuck someone in the yes! You know, or, I forget whatever he calls the kid. And his car gets bashed in. Then, like, the next scene is them, like, driving down the highway just eating burgers.
Yep.
I was like, oh, that's funny. That's cute. It's clever.
Yeah.
Because everything, on the second time watching, you notice that, like, everything that was said in the beginning is referenced again by the end. Like, the whole Lenin thing, you gotta see who profits, you know what I mean? This is all a very well encapsulated movie.
Yeah.
You don't have to know anything else except for what was said in the movie for it all to come full circle and kind of like make sense again.
Yeah.
Which is very good. Why I didn't like it the first time? I think it was just the hype.
Yeah.
I expected a lot more about it. And I think we just watched The Serious Man, too. Oh, no. Yeah. I saw The Serious Man before I saw The Big Lebowski.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Dang.
So, these two are extraordinarily similar.
Yeah.
Because this is where life is happening to someone, you know, the main character in this case, without really any input of their own.
Exactly, yeah. They have no say in what happens to them.
Yeah. And the moral of the story, and again, and they say it in the very beginning, shit happens, you know? There is no reason. Sometimes shit happens. It's like this. So this is the comedic version of A Serious Man. You know what I mean? For all intents and purposes, the main character of A Serious Man, whatever his name was.
Larry Gopnik?
Yeah, Larry Gopnik is like the dude, but a middle-aged, working Jewish guy.
Yeah.
With a family. Whereas the dude is just a middle-aged stoner bachelor whose really only motivation is the bowling league he's in, right?
Yeah, he just wants to live, pretty much.
Exactly. So I think seeing those two side by side, and specifically seeing A Serious Man before The Big Lebowski, kind of fucked this up for me, maybe.
Yeah, okay, that's so funny. Damn. That's very, very interesting. So, okay. So I kind of want to unpack something you said there, though, and talk a little bit about how seemingly things happen for no reason. Now, I am not accusing. I've just heard people online talking about how if you look at a lot of Coen Brothers movies, there seems to be in quite a few of them a sense of like, oh, nothing matters, or like, for example, so, and this movie we're about to talk about it kind of front loads it. In this movie, there are nihilists. And yet the nihilists are not nihilists. They believe in this money. The money is the thing they're chasing. They have things they're willing to do to, I mean, like, they have a system of operation, which is like, and a belief system, which is kind of the opposite of what nihilism is. But the movie itself is kind of, I don't know. I don't want to sound pretentious because I don't know that I like fully understand these concepts as well as I would like to, but like the movie is more of a nihilist than the nihilists are. In the same way that like the story of Job and the opening scene of A Serious Man and the movie A Serious Man are kind of nihilistic. It's like nothing's happening for a reason, and nothing's going to get you out of the bad stuff that happens.
Yeah.
You just have to keep going, kind of thing. So I don't know. I kind of sense these two movies are a bit nihilist in general.
I think A Serious Man was more nihilist than The Big Lebowski. The Big Lebowski is like a crime comedy, and The Serious Man is just a drama, if you will.
Yeah.
Right. The turn is when the dude played by Jeff Bridges realizes, oh my god, I actually knew this the whole time. It was from the quote in the beginning. The guy who's going to profit the most in the end. Now that I kind of have like all the pieces, or enough of the pieces, I know I never got the money, and he wanted this to happen, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. So, there was a turn when he was able to piece it together. You know what I mean? Accuse the wrongdoer, and then allow himself to live his life again. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But Serious Man takes the other turn where sometimes, or what's he say? And I've been thinking about this a lot since our last podcast. Yashem doesn't owe us any answers, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a little bit different there. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. So let's move into then what in this movie, now that you've seen it a couple times, what really worked for you? What jumped out at you? What did you like?
Oh, hands down, John Goodman. His performance in this movie is amazing. Like,
yep.
I bet if there's like one movie that John Goodman ever wants to be known for, it might be, maybe he doesn't want it to be, but I bet it would be The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, and I think rightfully so. His character, I think, is almost more quotable than the dude is.
Oh, absolutely. Like, this movie without John Goodman would be nothing.
Yeah, he has the perfect energy for it.
Yeah, it would. I just can't see anyone else in this role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he did a fantastic job. There's a lot of really funny comedy moments. Like on the second time watching, it was a lot more endearing to me. It was kind of like seeing an old friend. Like I remember these funny like things that you used to do, or I remember these funny habits, kind of like things, just like things that you kind of like were barely aware of and kind of forgot about. And say, no, this is amusing to me again, or it's amusing now that I've stepped away from it. I'm coming back, and it's very endearing to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had that feeling. I liked the scenes with Donnie in it. The first time I was like, okay. He's yelling at Donnie. He's just kind of gonna be that guy. But upon seeing it the second time, it's only been like what, a week and a half, 2 weeks, and I'm already like, oh Donnie. You know what I mean? Like, and that's pretty amazing. The turnaround time that
is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but for some reason this is like maybe because I was watching it on the second time in a less serious way. Because the first time I had a lot of anticipation, and I wanted to like see what all the hype was about. And so it kind of ruined it for me. The second time I was just watching it for my own viewing pleasure, because I'd already seen it once, and liked it a lot more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe that little bit of removal from all the serious stuff and the other Coen Brothers movie might have been good for it as well.
I think so too. It's a lot funnier now. Like, I was just like giggling to myself watching it the second time. And the first time I still laughed, but it was farther in between, you know?
For sure. Now, what, was there anything that still didn't work for you the second time? Was there anything you kind of were like, I was maybe confused by this, or I didn't like this very much?
What didn't work for me? It's hard for me to put myself back into the mindset of... Do you remember what I told you last time? I don't even remember. Because we had this discussion, why I didn't like The Big Lebowski the first time. And I feel like I had a very coherent way of putting it, and now I just am reaching. I don't even remember.
Well, there was definitely, I mean, you said the hype, and I definitely agree that would have, ruined a lot of stuff for me as well. But was there anything, like, within the movie that, like, after the second time, you're kind of like, I could have done without that, or did it feel wholly different the second time around?
This felt so much better the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost a night and day situation for me.
Interesting.
Maybe it's because I also just got done seeing Gone Girl, and was watching The Big Lebowski again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's also a lot of contextual things to think about here.
Definitely.
But I don't know. I'd have to come back to it. Was there anything in The Big Lebowski that didn't work for you? And this might be me reaching for your reach, but I still have to think about it. You know what I mean? Actually, the dream sequences.
Those weren't you weren't a fan of those guys?
I think they were funny in a haha stoner way.
Sure.
But I think they took up a lot of fucking time. And I don't know if they were... I know a lot of people like the dream sequences a lot.
Sure.
I think they went a little long at times.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. That's one thing. But sorry, what didn't... Okay, let's start from the top, actually. What did you like about The Big Lebowski? What did you not like about The Big Lebowski?
One thing I really liked was kind of the Coen brothers always get really interesting characters out of people who don't really have that many lines, don't really reveal very true motivations, and don't play huge parts in the plot. And I really like that because I like that the main characters who like do most of the stuff together are the dude and Walter, but I like Donnie, I like the Big Lebowski, I like the Big Lebowski's butler, which is played expertly by Philip Seymour Hoffman. I like Bunny Lebowski. I like all the actors who are playing the nihilists.
Really? Bunny had like one line.
Yeah, and Tara Reid, I believe, is who played that. She killed it. I knew exactly what kind of character they were trying to make her out as the second she opened her mouth. And everything she did from there on out, like running away, like spending a bunch of money, like getting in with the porn people who are, oh, surprise, one of them's one of the nihilists. That all played into the first line she gives, which was, what was it, like, I'll suck your cock for $40?
Yeah, like, something like that.
They are so good at creating characters that are memorable, and like every character in this movie stands out. And the ones I didn't mention, like Maud Lebowski, I believe it's the Big Lebowski's like niece or like daughter.
Yeah,
she is so funny. I don't know. I
liked her character a lot.
I love every character in this because of the fact that they all are so unique without like bashing you over the head with uniqueness.
What do you consider bashing over the head with uniqueness? Can you give me an example of
that? Because
I'd say this comes very close, if not hitting that mark of bashing you over the head with uniqueness.
I guess, a good example of that would be Deadpool. Did you see Deadpool?
True. Yeah, I did. I really liked it.
I love Deadpool, and I thought it was a really funny movie, despite the fact that, for some reason, a lot of my comedy buds did not agree with that. But I will say that, occasionally Ryan Reynolds' dialogue, it seemed like they were trying a little bit too hard to be like, hey, remember, he's not taking any of this seriously. I feel like with these characters, I use the Tara Reid example as she, from that one line, you know where she's going to go and that she's going to try and screw over her, or try and screw over the Big Lebowski. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman, how he's he has everyone's best interest at heart except people who are not the Big Lebowski. But he's so nice to the people who he doesn't like. He's so nice and he's so patient. On the outside, he's obviously freaking out on his face. But he's trying to be so cordial and so good. The nihilists outrightly saying we don't believe in anything, and then going but you have the money, it's not fair. Those I don't know.
To me, felt a little over the head for me. There were two moments, I think, but keep going.
Sure. What was the other one?
So there was that one where the nihilists are we believe in something. Haha.
Yeah.
Here's the joke. David Huddleston.
Yeah.
The Big Lebowski character. Yeah. But he felt like a really B-movie rich guy. Because he was really, as he was written to be, a way over-the-top rich dude. Like, oh, pity me, I'm so rich kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
And that was a little bit, like you said, where it hits the line of bashing you over the head of their memorableness, because he was already kind of like a trope at the time.
Sure.
The Nihilists were another one. I think those were the two. I mean, like, you could say John Goodman's character was a bash you over the head character too, but it's forgivable because he has a bigger role in it, right? He's not really supposed to be casted
and also
as
he has a fucking like anger problem, so it's like,
right?
Yeah, of course this guy's
funny.
gonna explode every once in a while.
Contextualize this really, it's just so funny because he just exposes, Shoma fucking Shama. I don't roll on Shoma Shama or whatever he says. It's just so funny,
dude.
But
can't do any.
Oh, the Jesus scene.
Yeah.
Where he's like, or if we're just talking about bashing you over the head with the character as being this guy is so memorable, when he's licking the bowling ball, and like doing his little dance.
I love that character so much. I can totally understand how you would feel that way. I just love that character so much.
I think hasn't John Turturro been in a lot of like Adam Sandler movies?
I know he was in Mr. Deeds. He was the butler in Mr. Deeds.
Right. I think he's been in more too. Like, I
feel very ashamed to say this as a fan of comedy, but I am not very familiar with Adam Sandler's work. I gotta be honest. Me neither.
But I think seeing him in just a couple of like, I definitely remember him from the one that you just said,
Mr. Deeds.
Yeah, Mr. Deeds.
He's very sneaky. Oh man, I love that guy so much.
I think associating that image of him from like Mr. Deeds to this movie, but really this came first, right? It's like when you see Cheers. Like, sure. I've just like a couple years ago I tried to watch all the Cheers episodes,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, this is so tiring. It's so hard to watch. It's so tropey. Yep. But back then it was kind of making the tropes. You know what I mean? That came first, but when you watch it now, it's just milked to death.
It is funny because he's been like a really serious actor for like most of his career. Like he got his start in Raging Bull. He's been in like so many Coen Brothers films.
Oh, he was in Raging Bull?
Yeah, he was like an uncredited. I mean, that's just a stupid factoid, I know. But he was also in like Miller's Crossing. He plays this guy who's like going to get killed by the mob, and that's another Coen Brothers movie. He plays like a really kind of tortured playwright in their other movie, Barton Fink. So it's like, yeah, he's done like all these Adam Sandler movies, but he's also been like in a lot of Coen Brothers movies too. Like, have you seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, I love that movie.
Oh yeah, he's that like, crazy Southern one in the trio of them.
Is he the one that kills his black friend?
He's the one who they think is turned into a horny toad. The taller one. I think his name is Pete. And they go to his cousin's house. But anyways, yeah, it's so funny because like the way you see an actor for their first couple times will totally characterize the way you see them for the rest of their career. Like, for example, I just said my Medea thing. And then now you're experiencing the same phenomenon with John Turturro.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, he's just a good actor. And you're like, no, that's Medea. I'm like, oh shit, that's Medea.
Yeah.
So I've actually seen the Medea movie before, but I never put that together.
Oh damn, that's so funny.
Yeah. That's kind of a sad comment, on like how we see movies and how, actors are just inevitably going to be typecasted.
Yeah, and what movies are marketed to us.
Yeah, based on the actors.
Yeah, it's like I know this is going to sound crazy, but like they market movies very specifically on TV. Like, oh, you're watching Comedy Central. We know what demographic watches that, so we're going to push this movie really hard. So it's like, yeah, we would never have, known that people were doing other stuff.
Yeah. Or if you watch ESPN and you watch just like the movies or the games that they advertise on them.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, you're going to fool a lot of people into seeing that crap.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, they might like it, but
definitely. I mean, that's the thing is I'll occasionally I'll go see a
I
Fast and
think
Furious movie, and I'll like it. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
I still don't fuck with Fast and the Furious. Although I heard it got a lot better since when I saw Tokyo Drift, my first.
I mean,
Fast
yeah,
and
I mean,
Furious
I will
movie.
admit, like, I legitimately came in being like, oh, this is going to be a bad movie, and I'm going to hate it, but I'll have a little bit of fun. There'll be some cool action sequences. And I went in and I came out and I was like, wow, that was a really cool movie. Like, it was one of those ones where it's like, these characters have been built up over the course of like, 6, 7 movies at this point, and you just know everything that's happened to them.
Yeah,
and so you bring the actions of the last movies into their character, whether or not they do. I mean, it's just kind of like a fun. It's become what Mission Impossible has become. It's like you're going to see some really cool shit. It's going to be relatively innovative as far as movies are concerned and movie technology is concerned. And the acting and plot won't be bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like one of those sure thing to. I mean, that sounds so pompous. Oh my God. What am I trying to say? It seems like, yeah, I can safely see this movie and be entertained.
Yeah, like, dude, there's so many movies like that I'll just go see. I saw Battleships, knowing it was going to be shit, but I enjoyed the shit out of it, because I was like, oh, this is just going to be stupid. Oh, man, there's a lot of big, dumb aliens blowing battleships up. This is fun.
Yeah, like yeah. I just feel like I always want to, like, plead the case of movies like that, because I'm like, we can't help what we like, and also a lot of people work really hard to make movies, and I really try to appreciate them as much as possible.
You know what actually just struck me? Another reason why I didn't think I liked, or why I was like, I think The Big Lebowski, me being an uninformed asshole, it's like, I think it was just a movie of its time,
Oh, sure.
I didn't realize it was fucking made in 1999 or 1998.
When did you think it was made?
I thought it was made in the 80s or something.
Oh, damn, that's hilarious.
Like, because this feels like it's out of the 80s.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's an 80s movie about the 70s. But it's not. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize this was actually done in 1998 as almost, I wouldn't even go so far as to say a period piece. But,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because it fits into that time where it's supposed to take place very seamlessly.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. That makes it way more interesting now.
Right.
Just as a head scratcher, like, oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. And it's also funny because, like, from our perspective, like, we were, like, 8.
I was 8. Yeah, for fuck's sake.
In 1998. So it's like, we weren't really paying attention to, like, what technology was available and stuff like that. And so we grow up thinking, like, oh, everyone has a computer, everyone has the internet, stuff like that. And all of a sudden, a movie like The Big Lebowski, in which neither of those are, like, prominently featured, you're like, oh, this must be like a period piece. Like, I definitely was like, oh, this takes place, like, in the mid to late 80s the first time I saw it, but nope.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I thought I was watching a young John Goodman, but I guess not. But I just thought
did a really good job with his hair and makeup, maybe.
Well, I don't know. Maybe John Goodman doesn't crack. And Steve Buscemi always looks like Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, he's looked relatively the same since as far back as I can remember.
So I was like, maybe young Steve Buscemi was just that. This is his whole life. He's just never not been bug-eyed Steve Buscemi.
Oh.
Yeah. What? It's an endearing look. He's a character too.
He is. I mean, he wouldn't get roles if people didn't want his character type.
Exactly.
Damn. Is there so any final thoughts on this one?
My final thought is I like it a lot better now, not having like any pretense. I think it's like the same problem I had with The Infiltrator, where I liked it just watching it because I just had it on the background. And like, I'd kind of look up at it and just kind of say, like, I see what they're going for, okay. And I would nod my head and like just say, oh, that was a cool, like,
yeah,
that was a cool build up to the finale. You know what I mean?
Yep.
This is the opposite for me. We're upon, well, actually, it's almost the same thing, if you think about it. Because when I was watching it critically, I hated The Infiltrator, and I was watching it critically, I was very disappointed with The Big Lebowski.
Sure.
But just as just have on in the background movie, I think that's what I said about The Infiltrator too. It's beautiful. It's a great movie just to have on and just kind of like look up and chuckle.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's a lot better than I initially gave it credit for.
Interesting. All right.
What about you? Were there any final thoughts, any scenes that stuck out for you?
Final thoughts are just that I think this movie is like a testament to a comedy being able to be a comedy in a lot of different ways. There are portions of this that feel like sketch comedy where it's like we said, like these exaggerated characters, like the Jesus scene.
Mm-hmm.
And there are portions of it where there's just like these long form little kind of like subtle goofs where it's like Donnie always wants to do something that like won't hurt anyone, and Donnie is always innocent. And there, you just like you said, there's like that great scene where he's like talking about In-N-Out, and they're like, "Shut the fuck up, Donnie." Yeah. And then the next scene, they're like driving in their most miserable state yet.
Yeah,
and they're all just eating In-N-Out. That just seems like something Tim and Eric would write into like an episode of Bedtime Stories, you know. So it's like this movie has such a variety of different types of comedy that I think just for that alone, it deserves like a spot in comedy history. But I will also say that, like, with that said, since probably the second time I've seen it, I haven't laughed out loud at the movie since. You know, wow. I just like watching it. I'll have like maybe a stupid smile on my face or something, but like it doesn't make me laugh out loud anymore. I just love every second of it because it's just a really fascinating flick, I think. I don't know.
I know we're short on time, but you mentioned something interesting where you said, as like one of the top comedies ever.
Maybe
what would be another?
Sorry. Go ahead.
What would be like another one of those top rated in your eyes, or like saved for posterity comedy movies?
Probably Black Dynamite would be one.
That's a good one. I think it gets a little bit long in the end.
I think the Birdcage would definitely be one. The Birdcage is probably one of the more unsung comedies in that same regard. Maybe like I can't think of a lot that I think are like unsung in the way The Big Lebowski is. I'll just say Black Dynamite and The Birdcage.
Interesting, because I can't even think about comedy movies and that I would hold to such high esteem. I think the way that I consume comedy is a very it's like a cigarette. You smoke it, you throw the butt away, you don't remember the cigarette. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I can't even think of any comedies that I would say, oh man, you just gotta see that one, man. That's a great one. Save it for posterity. This is one that should go down as history. So for you to say that to me was very interesting. I was like, oh wow.
I have actually one last one I want to add to that list. Have you seen the movie Hot Rod?
No, I have not.
Hot Rod is, I will say in my mind, the most underrated comedy of all time. It has ridiculous characters, it has a ridiculous plot, and yet is still grounded in some semblance of reality, and has all this kind of folklore about it, and like every part of that movie is thought out and smart and hilarious. There's no fat on it. The characters are all exactly what they need to be for the scene to be funny. It does not get enough credit for being a great movie.
Hot Rod?
Yeah.
I've never even heard about it.
Oh man, it is fucking cool. It's
Holy
a great
crap.
movie.
It's the dude from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Andy Samberg?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What I wanted to say about this reminds me of it, about The Big Lebowski. It seems like what Seth Rogen has been trying to do with all of his movies, like, since forever, feels like this, but worse.
You mean like Seth Rogen is trying to do an impression of a Coen Brothers comedy?
I feel like Seth Rogen is trying to do an impersonation of The Big Lebowski. Like, every movie he does is just kind of like a lesser or worse Big Lebowski.
Interesting.
You could say that because they're both kind of like stonery, whatever kind of stuff.
Sure.
But it feels so much more try-hard in a Seth Rogen movie, even though a lot of it more is improvised. Where The Big Lebowski is probably definitely all scripted, but it still feels more effortless. You know what I mean?
Interesting. That's a very wow. I was like ready to grill you about that, but I really like that.
Woohoo.
The Big Lebowski does feel effortless, despite the fact that it's almost certainly like scripted to a T by the Coen brothers. And whereas like, and I would say that not just like Seth Rogen, but like this is coming from a guy who loves Seth Rogen movies. A lot of comedy movies that are based around improv have that kind of like I'm trying feel.
Oh, so I'm trying way too hard.
Yeah, and I one thing that Pete Holmes always says on his podcast is like people do not like the appearance of trying. Like when you can tell someone's trying really hard, it's kind of unattractive. Not in like a sexual way, but like in a I'm kind of drawn away from this. And so a lot of improv heavy movies have that kind of try hard feel at times.
Yeah, it makes you wince and it makes you go like, "Oh, bless their heart," almost. You know
yeah, and it does, but it also at times when they get it really right, it's like, oh man, well that, you know, if that was at an improv show, there would be 50 people who would have seen it, and then no one else would ever get to see it for the rest of forever. But because it's in a movie, that's kind of rad that they captured that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that's a very good point, dude. Oh, what a way to put it.
Well, thanks. You got me blushing over here. I think that's... I know you got to go soon, and I think we've talked about a lot of good stuff today in the movies.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess we'll be back next week with 2 new movies to be determined.
Yes, sir. I have been Anson Chan.
And my name is Paul Morgan.
Thank you for listening to our Big Movie Podcast. We'll see you guys next time.
Next time.